Social welfare through tech disruption. And for our speaker today for this panel, let's put our hands together right now for Dr. Kevin Ileka. Yes. Let me say one thing for the speakers. When you guys speak, please feel free to take off your mask when you guys speak, okay?
Yeah, you can take off your mask when you speak. Yeah. When you speak, yeah.
So good day, everybody. Again, thanks for coming. It's a really, really nice turnout. I'm super excited for this panel. As our host said, my name is Dr. Kevin Ileka. Thank you. I am a research chemist in the pharmaceutical industry, so as you can imagine, I am a nerd. So talking about tech, really wakes me up in the morning. So we have industry leaders who are doing really great things, not only here in the United States in the diaspora, but also back home in the Congo. So I'm going to give a brief introduction. So to my immediate left, we have Kimpalou. He is the co-founder and partner at KCG LLC.
Yeah.
Then we have Faïka Mukendi. Did I say that right? Okay. She is a Racial Equity Program Manager at Kuwa. Vanessa Serao. I'm so that. Okay. She's a project lead at Spotify. Finally, we have Mponzi. Oh, okay. Co-founder and CEO of TCE Capital. So for my first question, just so that we can get our audience, up to speed, when we think of, in your own words, in your own opinion, how do you define tech disruption in the context of social welfare?
Tech disruptions, I always like that word because it's always kind of, rebel, right? It's always about changing the mindset. To me, when I hear tech disruption, it's all about using technology for something different, build up something different. So when it comes to social welfare, I always look at it as the bureaucracy that is attached to it. So tech disruption is the ability to use technology to disrupt that bureaucracy, to disrupt all those things that usually get in the way of progressive activities or being progressive when it comes to being able to provide social services to the needy.
So for me, when I think about tech disruption within our community specifically, I think of access to jobs within tech. And so when you think about that, you think about access to careers, which leads to economic welfare for your family, you and your family, which ultimately leads to generational wealth. And so for me, when I think of tech disruption, I think of our community being uplifted, having careers, having jobs within tech, and elevating their lives.
Thank you. So from my perspective, I think it's more, looking at how can tech solve issues that we may see in Africa, for example. So as you know, many challenges, but also many opportunities. So basically, how can we leverage tech to either, develop solutions that are basically helping people to get access to a better, life, quality of care or other things, but also how can I leverage technology as I know it here, but in the continent to tackle some clear opportunities that are there. So that's really what I'm thinking a lot about, tech descriptions. It's really challenges, but also opportunities.
Actually, I agree with Jose. Like, how do we use, especially in Congo, how do we use tech, especially things that we know today, and in the US, how we use it, and how we replicate it to solve problems that are really things that impact us on a day-to-day basis. And if we have to go with examples like healthcare, how do we see healthcare here and we see the problems that we have back home, and we see how tech has improved a lot of healthcare systems. So what do we use exactly to fix, well not fix, but make better the problems that we're seeing there? And there are so many examples. There's also education, opportunities. So everything that everyone already touched on, but basically also understanding the needs in our country and using the power of tech to solve those needs.
So, in a pandemic world, what are some of the challenges that the tech world faces, not only here, but if you want to really make some positive impact in the Congo? What are some of the challenges that you run into, or that you can think of in a world that we live in today?
Something simple would be how we're working today. Like, we live in a pandemic right now, and this is not new. Something happened like the flu pandemic also happened a long time ago. But today we're able to keep jobs. We're able to still communicate with our families, whether it's WhatsApp or Zoom or Google Hangout, anything that you can think of. We're still able to have food. So all those little things, we may not see it because it's on that's our day-to-day routine. So we don't really think about it, but this is all enabled because of tech. And when we go back home, they don't have that easy, it's not that easy for them, especially when we think about Wi-Fi or the speed of Wi-Fi, the stability, electricity, all that they don't have that easy access to. And then here, or anywhere else that I can think of that have good tech, that is good in the tech world, still gives us the ability to survive and to keep living even when we're stuck in our homes.
I will give you an example. So for one of my clients, I was used to travel once a month in Europe. So it's quite difficult to spend 1 week there, and then your time zone, blah blah blah. And then of course pandemic, technology. Technology has been so powerful during the pandemic. And I think 2 weeks ago, it's on, hey, Jose, do you think that you can travel back? I said, what? And I think most of us are like, hey, technology has also demonstrated that we can do the job from home. That there are many, corporations trying to pull back people, back to the office. There are benefits of having people in the office, but technology has been so powerful during the pandemic and showing that, we can definitely leverage technology. And again, back to the continent, yes, it's difficult for people to get, access to internet, etc. But fortunately, they have alternatives thanks to technology. Facebook. Most of my contacts in DRC are met with them through Facebook because everyone is always on Facebook, right? So that's a way also to connect with people during the pandemic to keep business up and running. And I think, you said what are the challenges, but at the end of the day, what I'm thinking about is, technology has been an answer to these challenges during the pandemic. And again, technology offers opportunities, and in Africa, there are so many people that are looking at technology as a way to innovate, as a way to create new jobs, etc. But what is missing is, in fact, the infrastructure. Infrastructure is pain. So how how can you innovate when the infrastructure is not there? Well, basically you need to jailbreak the technology. We discussed about that. What is jailbreaking? The technology is basically you know something that you learn here, you master here, you go back on the continent, or you just connect with someone and say, hey, how can we leverage that technology? And then you start brainstorming. And I think that's also where I like you guys to think about, hey, I want to start a project in Africa. Maybe you don't need to start. Maybe you can connect with someone who already has something but needs some extra knowledge, help, and etc. I don't want to monopolize the mic, but that was kind of, my perspective also from that angle.
From my perspective, when I look at the pandemic and what's going on and the reality, especially in Congo, I think everybody kind of touched on it a little bit. The infrastructure is very much lacking in Congo, in Africa in general, and Congo especially. And I think it's important for us to understand that we can help, and not only that, the people of Africa in general are very resilient, very resourceful, like you said. They look at technology not necessarily the same way we do, right? We always have Zoom, Teams, and all that stuff, and that doesn't necessarily work for Congo. So sometimes you have Facebook, WhatsApp, and all the other social media tools that they have that is much more accessible to them. They cannot utilize that. So it's all about also sometimes when you're trying to do something there and helping them out through this pandemic, it's always about looking at being resilient and resourceful in what you have. And that's what technology disruption is all about, I think. And I think that's what's important when we're talking about Africa and Congo especially. We have to find ways of doing new things and improving the life of the people there with the tools that we have. Sometimes we wish we had electricity 24/7, but it's the reality right now that half the city sometimes or half the country doesn't have electricity. So those are the things that we need to find solution for and being able to be a little bit more resourceful and help out. So that's my two take on it.
Please put your phone on mute. So we talked about infrastructure. So let's have a conversation about tech pipeline. So women, especially Black women, continue to be severely underrepresented in the tech space. What can we as a community do better to help bridge that gap?
So part of my answer for the first question, which I forgot to add to that, was I do believe that tech disruption requires our community to have gender equity. And as someone who has not gone back to the Congo in 20 years, I don't feel like I have an understanding of what's going on, the lay of the land, but I can tell you what's going on here in the US. So within our community, I don't feel like we do have gender equity, gender equality, and for us to be even playing in the space of tech disruption, for us to be having access to jobs in tech here in the United States, gender equality, gender equity is something that has to be there. And so when we're talking about pipeline and we're talking about the lack of Black women, the lack of actually women even in general in the tech space, our community, I feel like, has to even just get through the fact that gender equity and equality is not even there. So you can't play in the space of tech if you're not respecting women. So that's number one for us, and I do feel like that's a challenge within our community. But as far as women in general, my job specifically, what I do is we make sure that we stop any type of biases that are ongoing when it comes to recruiting, retention, and so forth. And so in my day-to-day job, I do have the opportunity for me to ensure that we do get Black women in our pipeline. We do make sure that we're retaining them. We do check in to see why they're not getting promoted and so forth. I would love to see that being applied within our community more, because this touches Black women in general, including of the diaspora. But I don't see too many Congolese women coming through the pipeline. So feel free to reach out to me, because there's a lot of Black women in here, there's a lot of Congolese women here, and I would love to chat if you're interested in a career in tech.
Yeah.
After that answer. Well, for me is, for the ones that are in tech and that have somewhat made it, it's how do you open the doors? How do you make yourself seen and you make yourself heard? So someone that's coming from where you come from, that looks just like you, knows that there is someone like them that is there. So if they want to go there, it's not impossible. Because how the world and human work is, you can only want to reach a place where you think it's possible to reach. So if you don't see anyone, and I'm saying anyone that looks like you, that talks like you, that can from where you come from, it's harder for you to visualize yourself in that position. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is harder. So as Faïka is here and I'm here, we have to try to go to more summits. We have to try to talk, reach out a little more. And when we find the women that needs that mentoring, we take them and we help them. Because we go through a lot of things, whether it's trying to find a job or being at the job, because it's a whole system. We can't just take it upon ourselves, because it's not just our community. The system was built like that. So we do some work, but the work cannot just come from us. It has to come from Black men, it has to come from white men, it has to come from anyone that can possibly change something. So the best I can do, the best Faïka can do is showing that we're here, showing that we want to help, showing that it's possible to make it where we are, but then further down the line or that invisible ladder, the system has to change.
Of course, I cannot speak for women, but from my perspective, I think we need to make sure to do the best we can to, give the space and make sure that we can empower women. Because in my 16-year plus career, I can tell you, when a woman is empowered, you can just rely on her and drag stuff, right? They do the job, they deliver, they are really powerful, they have the sixth sense that us, of course, we are sometimes missing often. My wife will be happy that she's not here. But, I'm always happy to see, women leading things, and, if I can support. And I think that's the mentality that we need to have encouraged. Maybe the older generation is different, but us, I'm not young, but still, we need to make sure that we give, the space, the right space, and we just be open, right? So, yeah.
I guess for me, and I'm kind of like Jose, right? It's kind of hard from a Black man perspective, but essentially it's about opportunity, right? It's always about giving the woman, empowering the woman to be able to show that she's, first of all, far smarter than the man. We gotta say here, right? My wife is here, that's why I'm saying all that. But anyway, it essentially is giving them opportunity. But not only that, it's also making sure we have the right policy to enforce the right rules, right? Because sometimes it's true, we've got guys that do not respect women, that do not understand that they are capable of far more than what we are capable of doing. So I'm also a proponent of enforcing certain rules and making sure that while we're putting the policies in place, while we're putting the opportunity in place, that we're also following them, that we're making sure that corporations, that governments, that any entities are following those same rules so that the women's have the same opportunity they men. Whether it's salary, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's accessibility to healthcare or anything else, it should be about equality all the way through. So it shouldn't just be about giving an opportunity for one thing but not the other. There should not be any differences in any opportunity that man gets that a woman should get. So that's my 2 cents on it as well.
Thank you for 2 cents. It was a little more than 2 cents, but So Vanessa, so through your nonprofit work with the robotics and the work you do with Malika, with the girls over there, what is the most rewarding thing about that type of work, and what sort of strategies do you use to ensure that the next generation of minds stay within the STEM field?
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
What is the most rewarding thing about the work you do with Malika and your other nonprofit?
I would say how, like, seeing them change the way they're thinking. One of tech, two of themselves. He didn't mention, I have a nonprofit that's focused on teaching robotics and, tech, but focusing on robotics and coding to underprivileged kids. And I taught at an orphanage. So I went to the orphanage with everything that we needed and made sure that I was partnering with developers on site. And we taught kids. So from the beginning, we asked them, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that goes back to what I said earlier. They can only strive to be what they see. So they see people that are like drivers, chauffeur de taxi and whatever. So one of them actually did say, if I have enough money, I'll buy my little car when I grow up, and he's 8 years old. I'm gonna buy my little car and then start driving and make money out of it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then we keep going, and I see them like learning and actually unlocking something that you may not like see with your bare eyes, but you just feel it. And actually something that really surprised me is the same kid, 3-4 weeks later, they watch TV, they watch Disney, and he sees a kid on TV using a computer, and he says in Ileka, because like that's the language he feels more comfortable with, oh, biso pwede sa makamagwit. And it was funny, but it was, to me, that was like one of the most rewarding statements I could possibly hear. Because I went from having a kid that, actually in the beginning, saw computers and they're like, oh, is that a TV? They're asking us if, and they're 8 to 14 years old, to looking at a white kid on TV, on Disney Channel, and they're like, oh, we also do this, so there is nothing crazy about this. So we demystified something that was never accessible to them, or possibly even down the road, where they were always put in a certain box where it's like, you are this is what you can do, and you are never gonna do this because that's not for you. And now it's like, oh, I can do it. And as like with the girls in Malika, it was like a little easier because they already have that access. And through tech, and you can go back to the first conversation that we had, because of tech, those kids are exposed to a lot of things. They're exposed to teachers around the world. They're exposed to the diaspora around the world. So they already see themselves out there doing amazing things. So all I did was just coming with my lessons. And the only difference is, whenever they wouldn't understand something, well, they speak French and English, but I will speak Swahili. Like I'm not perfect, but I can explain things, and they felt more relatable. And we just bonded directly because it's like, oh, she came from here. We speak the same language, and she's doing this. I want to do that too. So I'm still in contact with a few of them where I'm sending them homework, I'm sending them exercises, just because we have that bond where it's like, okay, I've seen a lot of people, but you're a woman, and you came from here, and you're doing this, and I want to do it too. So making yourself accessible, making yourself available, showing them that, hey, I am not here just to say that I'm here, but I'm here because I have the chance to, and I want to show it to you and to prove to you that you can do it too. As far as the second question, I never aspire to make force anyone to stay in STEM. I strongly believe that you have to know about it. I strongly believe that today coding should be like writing. it's important to know. But I will never tell you that if it's not your passion, you shouldn't do it, you should do it. I don't think that's where we should go. But everybody is built different. Everybody has their own talents. And we shouldn't take that away from them because we're just doing what our parents were doing. You have to be a doctor, you have to be this and this and that. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is expose them to that word. Do you like it? Or how can you leverage it to do what you love to do? And there's a few examples around the world, like fashion designers. And I was talking to her and I say, Anifa, for example, she's a fashion designer, but she used tech, she leveraged. She may not be, I don't know much about her, but she may not be in tech, but she used tech in her advantage. So you know enough about it to use it in your advantage, but you don't have to stay in it. But as far as the program, I make sure as well that it's easy for them, because coding, like when you see coding, can be pretty scary. And also coding is in English. So we taught the kids at the orphanage in Lingala sometimes. It's like, how do we associate it to something that you know, so you can memorize it, understand it instead of memorizing it. And at that point, when we have the foundation down, you can throw anything at them. It's like, oh, I already understand the logic, I already understand how to work it. Because we broke that language barrier, and we broke that, oh my God, it's too hard and I can't do it barrier. And yeah, that's that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's super important that we invest in the next generation because, they're the ones who are going to deal with that mess, right? So, Jose, let's switch gears just a little bit. So given your expertise, in medtech and the biotech space, how can one leverage tech to really help the health crises overseas in the Congo and all of Africa?
Yeah, so, back in 2010, the World Health Organization published a paper that, basically was saying tech is so important in healthcare in Africa, because this is the best way we can close the gap between patients, healthcare providers, because of the lack of infrastructures, lack of hospitals, things like that, things that are pretty common to us. And I've seen a lot of great innovations, in Africa. People are really, trying to create solutions, whether it is, monitoring pregnancy from far away, telemedicine, or just creating universal patient databases with QR codes. Things that even here in the US we don't see really, or maybe now with the pandemics, they are all talking about telemedicine, because they still need to get a revenue. But their solutions have been implemented in Africa since years. I like to do the analogy with the banking sector. Today, all of you are using Cash App, Zero, etc. Oh, did you get my Cash App? Oh, yes, of course. But in Africa, they are using similar solutions, mobile money, since 10, 15 years. Because of the lack of banking access, they had to innovate, right? So in healthcare, that's what I see, that's what I notice, that people have the knowledge because, of course, they are exposed in some capacity to technology. They understand the requirements of, the local market and how to, to close that gap. But what is really missing, what is paying for today's, tech-savvy guys innovating in that space is investment, money to scale up the solutions, money to be able to alleviate the fact that, I don't have wireless connection. Well, how do you get there? So there are solutions, but they need, people that can support them from a financial perspective to move forward. And that's where also I see the connect between us, right here, and also them there, right? So because try to get a loan in a local bank, that's crazy. 20% interest rate, 25, sometimes 40% you need to put your house, in guarantee. Doesn't make sense. So us being here, we can also help them, in some capacity maybe to connect with investors or even grants. We have access to, government agencies. They are doing great stuff to help, different organizations across Africa. So we can be also that connect to help. Because again, I've seen a lot of things myself. I have a digital healthcare venture in Africa. We developed a solution back in 2016, but it was really hard for us in DRC to scale the solution because of the lack of finance, right? So again, I think innovation is there. People have bright ideas, bright product, but they are just limited. So that's really something where also we need to think about when we want to try either to connect with people or to create solutions or to develop solutions. Without that financing aspect, we won't be able to scale up solutions that are already there and very, very brilliant. So that's kind of my perspective. The tech is allowing so much, things. It's a powerful way to, close the gap and help people to get access to better lives. And we just need to be that maybe connection.
So Paul, what recommendations would you give the Congolese government to help in that regard? Not getting super political.
Well, first off, I think it's twofold, right? First is help out with the infrastructure. Obviously, he mentioned that there's a real, true lack of infrastructure, and people had to rely on other things and innovate. So I think for the government, it's important to be able to help the population and provide the proper infrastructure. It comes with, partnership with corporations and things like that. But, the concern there sometimes is that if you give too much to that partnership, sometimes you can lose control. So we always got to be mindful of that. But I think if the government can help provide the proper infrastructure, I guarantee, and I'm pretty confident that we will see a lot of strides when it comes to, healthcare services in Africa and Congo especially. And even other services. Banking is one of the things as well where we have many challenges, and it's all because of the lack of infrastructure. So I think it's one of the most important things. Better access to internet, better access to electricity. All of those are to me pretty critical to being able to evolve and help out. So that's pretty much it.
So, Faïka, I want to go back to a comment you made earlier about being in the diaspora for about 20 years. I think many of us here can relate to that. We came here because our parents brought us in. We haven't gone back in 10, 20, 30 years. So, there can be a feeling of being a little disconnected from Congo. So can you speak a little bit more to that, and how do you, in your personal life, stay connected?
Yes. So the last time I was in Congo was when I left in 2020. Oh, 2000. Sorry. I wish. In 2000. And so I do feel a bit disconnected from the community. I think the first time I was in a room where there was the most Congolese people I've seen was at the last CDIS conference, the first one. And so that alone was a big eye-opener for me. First, I did feel disconnected still, but I also did feel connected in the sense that I came and I made some connections. The one thing I did notice though was, because I was working at Microsoft at the time, that a lot of folks from our community were shocked that there's people within our community that are working for these big corporations. And so that was shocking to me because I felt like, well, we all have access to this here in this country. But if you don't have the information that you need to know for you to have access to this world, then you are going to think that it's hard to get in it. You're going to look at it like it's something that's foreign. And so for me, that was a big takeaway from the first conference, was that I need to find ways to share more of these opportunities. Like tech, you don't have to be in STEM to work in tech. There are many opportunities within tech. I'm not in STEM. I was an accountant, but I guess I'm not in STEM now. But that was my takeaway, was that I was doing a lot of work with the National Association of Black Accountants. I was chapter president, all this good stuff, raising thousands of dollars for Black African Americans to get scholarships, have access to recruiters at these big corporations. You have students graduating, directly going to work at EY, at Microsoft, at all these big corporations. And so when I came to CDIS, I was thinking, why isn't our community doing the same? And so that's when I did join CDIS afterwards, for me to try to bridge the gap. I do feel like I want to leverage my skills in sharing this information, making it accessible, demystifying the fact that tech, you have access to tech. If you are a technical writer, if you are in design, if you are a recruiter, a computer science engineer, like whatever you do, you can have access to tech. The difference is tech will pay you more than most other companies. So you can do the same job for a company that will pay you, let's say $40,000 or $50,000, and tech may pay you $100,000. So it's that type of information that I want to share, and I want our community to be aware of, that there are these opportunities for us to do the same things, the things that we care about, in this world where we get compensated for it in the way that we should be. So, yeah.
I think the access to information, right, is very, very valuable. So this, I guess, we're kind of running out of time. So I want to ask one last question to the panel before we open it up to the audience. What is one piece of advice that you can give for someone who wants to get in tech and do work in Congo? And what are some things to look out for?
So, I have a background in biomedical engineering, English sometimes, bankrupt. I never code, never touched a line of code, etc., but I did develop solutions in the tech space. I'm a consultant in the tech space, in life sciences, but in the tech space. So, it's just about having the right people with you. Just being open. So, I need that skill set. Oh, I know someone. Okay, let me reach out to that guy, have a conversation, right? And then, I'm picking up his brain, and also the other way around is picking up my brain, and that's how you build up, kind of strong relationship, and you start to understand and get your brain, open to the world of tech. So that's what's really my journey, starting from, hey, no, I don't want to see the codes, man, no. And then, oh, no, I like it, so let's do something. So it's just about getting, the right network and connecting with people.
I guess I'll answer this one as well. One of the big things that I always tell people, I just came back from the Congo, is don't try to be the big entrepreneur right away, because a lot of companies think of tech as this way of becoming the next, Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or whatever. So I always tell them, no, don't do it. The percentage is not there. I'm a big analytical guy, I like numbers, and I also always tell them, don't do it. The best thing you can do, learn as much as you can, right? Get mentorship, get your job, get under some good companies where you can learn as much as you can, and do what pleases you, what you want to do, right? But it's all about getting the right mentorship. And I want to add to that we are lacking a lot of mentorship in Congo, whether it's in Congo, whether it's in the diaspora. We need more people to be available. We need more people to help out the next generation, because right now they are really relying on us to help them, provide them some guidance and nurture the how do you call it? The power, nurture the power that they have. They've got skills and they are amazing and they're very resilient, but they need some nurturing. And I think it's our job, whether you're here in the diaspora or whether you're in Congo, to help them out and being able to, help them become what they can become.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Best advice.
in Congo. Okay, so I definitely can't address the work in Congo part because I told y'all I have not been in Kinshasa since I left in 2000. So I can address the other part of getting a job in tech up here. So I would say figure out what you want your role to be in tech. If you are an accountant, if you are whatever your passion is. Because I do strongly believe that most of us, our parents came here and they have done jobs that they didn't want to do for us, and I don't feel like we have to do that. It does not have to be passed down multiple generations. So figure out what your passion is and what you want your role to be within tech, then perfect that craft, if it's education, school, whatever it is, and networking. So networking is, I feel like, something that a lot of just Africans in general overlook because we are trained to know that you get your education and you get a job immediately, but that's not how America works unless you're doing something very, very specific. So I would say honing in on networking, as long as you have your credentials and your skill is perfected, networking will get you through the door. And that means, like, even in this space, making sure you're talking to people about what you're interested in doing. If it's going to LinkedIn, looking at people's jobs that you're interested in, dropping them a message saying, hey, I want to chat about your career and I want to learn about how you got there. You may figure it out that you don't like that job anymore, or you don't like that career path anymore, so you go back to the drawing board. But I'm a big advocate of making sure that you talk to people about what you want to do before you get in it, and then you realize you dislike it, and now you have to figure out how to maneuver, which you still can, but save yourself some trouble. Yeah, and then one last thing I would say is the mentoring that you mentioned. That's a part of networking, where you're seeking out mentors, you're seeking out sponsors. But one thing I want to leave with is a challenge to the men business owners here, for y'all to mentor women as well. Because I do feel like, y'all talk about us like we're different species a little bit, and we are not. And so I am challenging y'all to be talking to women like in this room and talking to them about business and about what they want to do.
Thank you. So does anyone have any questions? We'll open up to the audience. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll walk around and give you a mic.
Can you project until I get there? I'll ask you if you can project until I got to you, but it's all good.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Okay. So my name is Asha Manono. I'm a consultant in tech. I work for Emphasis. I'm sure some of you guys know what Emphasis is. The first question that I have, I think it's for Faïka. I think one of the problems is the disconnect. A lot of us come to America, we get into the grind, and we disconnect from our home. And I think it's part of the problem. As a racial equity program manager, what do you think, and it's not just for Faïka, but for everyone in the panel, how do we make sure that Congolese are coming to America and going to all these other places, and even when they grinding like other nationality or other people in different countries, how can we make sure we don't disconnect? Because I'm here since 2000 as well, and I understand the disconnect, because when you go to school and you really dedicated, you spend a lot of time with Americans and stuff, but how can we make sure that we don't lose that disconnect to back home and still connected? So that's the first question to the entire panel. The second question is, I see that all of you guys are doing things in tech back home. here in America, and I believe this is a Congolese event. But when I go to YouTube and search for Congo, all I see is Bosolo na politique, it's question Mosebe, it's Papier Kuzonika. So I'm wondering, where is all of you? Where is your media? Where is your communication? Where are the YouTubers? Like, I started a YouTube channel during the pandemic just because of that. Our mentors are not talking. So you guys have all this education, you have accomplished so much. How come you're not, where's your media? How come you're not talking to Congolese people back home? And if you are, I don't know, but I would like to know your YouTube so I can see and follow your project, because I see it's good. I see you guys have good projects. You guys are pretty successful. I would like to follow you guys, so I'm wondering where's your media, where's your communication on social media? Thank you.
Fair enough.
Those were heavy loaded questions. I will answer the first one, which I tried to jot down, and I can barely read my own handwriting. But as far as connection to the Congo, my mom's from Burundi and Rwanda, and I'm closer to my Burundian family, so that's where my disconnect is. But as far as within the diaspora here, racial equity work right now is focused on the Black community in general at my job at Google. And then it's going to expand globally afterwards, after we resolve our issues with the Black community first. And so when I think about the work that we do, we're really sharing information. We're talking about things that are not talked about. So when I say there's biases, if you think about, like, you interview for a job, you interview with 5 people, and all of them are white males, and the only feedback you get is that, well, you know, we found someone more qualified, or, well, we don't feel like you fit in our company culture. That's all bias, because what really is company culture to them, that you are not, right? And so my job is for us to identify these things, raise them to leadership, and have leadership care about stopping that from happening, which can be having people who are interviewing you be Black women, including Indian women. Like, if you diversify Indian women, Indian man, white male, like whatever it is, you diversify your interviewing panel. So I'm just giving you an example of a solution of one example of bias, right? So that's just based on us sharing information with people of power and to have them do something about it, right? Because they're the ones that are able to do something about it. We aren't. We're really just influencers. So we're influencing things to happen, right? So when I think about it within our community, it's sharing information. I think that a lot of us may think that it's a competition. So we're not going to share information with X person because they might steal my opportunity. When there's so many opportunities out there that we're doing ourselves a disservice by not sharing the information. And so that's what I would say within our community. I don't think our community is like tight-knit where we can sit down and be like, okay, so how was your interview? And what did they tell you? And what did they ask you? And I don't think our community would do that. And so that's my response to that, is sharing information within our community that goes to the level of what questions were you asked, what level did they offer you for your job, because we have the same qualifications. Did they offer you a lower level? You're a woman. Did they offer me a higher level? I'm a man. What was the difference? These things like that are things that I think our community can share about our experiences in general, whether it be school, whatever. And then the last thing is our people who are in higher positions within our community, like the 2 business owners on the panel. I keep thinking like, but the 2 business owners on the panel, like all business owners here, y'all also share information with the people who are not at the level that you are, because we're looking at you like, oh, you made it, like, let's go. So how did you do it? And you're like, well, you know, just gotta get a mentor. It's like, well, can you be my mentor? So like I would say like people who are higher positions in this room to share the information down to our community. I feel like that's going to help kind of bridge the gap that we're seeing.
There was a second.
Yeah, there was a question about the YouTube. I ain't on there, so.
About media, yeah.
So YouTube, it's cooked. Don't think of. I think we have so much journalists, etc. It's really difficult. How did I connect with Jim and even Thierry here? Is in a business network. How did I create my local tech network in a Facebook group? Again, Facebook is really powerful in Congo. If you want to connect with people, you want to talk with people. WhatsApp, same. There are many groups, WhatsApp groups in DRC where people are just talking, exchanging information, exchanging ideas. If you get into that type of groups, it will be helpful for you to also understand the ecosystem. I've been lucky enough to be part of the Tony Lumelu Entrepreneurship Program back in 2017. And it has been also for me helpful to kind of, build up my network with local entrepreneurs in DRC and some others, in different countries. So I think you need to try to find, and you said it very well, try to find ways to target, groups or develop your network within those groups. That would be my advice, because again, YouTube, etc. There are different alternative channels, and WhatsApp is kind of free because you just need to have your megas, and then people are just talking days and nights, etc. It's very powerful. Facebook the same. So to answer your question.
Well, I guess I'll answer it as well. YouTube, yeah, pretty interesting. When it comes to business, especially in Congo, I will tell you, YouTube doesn't work. It's pretty good here. We enjoy it. Guess what? We have the infrastructure. We have the access. When it comes to Congo, where internet costs what? $1 for a gig, right, of data. You can barely watch a YouTube video with $1. Imagine how much money you need to watch a full, a full video or a couple videos on there. It's not working. They rely on different things, like he mentioned, WhatsApp, Facebook. This is what the business they rely on. And trust me, I had to learn that too. Because I'm a big Slack guy, I'm a big Teams guy, I want to do the video conferencing, and they're all about, no, it doesn't work here, we will not be on your video conference, we don't want to do business that way. So guess what, you want to do business in Congo, you have to adapt. You have to understand that the way that you used to doing it here, it's not necessarily the best way that will work in Congo. So those are the challenges that you have to accept, and then you have to understand how to address it the best way that you can right now. And help them as well understand that, guess what, there's also other way of doing it, right? There's also other things that we can do to help out. And she mentioned it as well. The main reason that I came on board and be part of CDIS is because there's not enough mentorship, there's not enough accessibility, there's not enough people that are able to say, hey, here's my story, this is how I started, this is how I got to the point that I am. And I want to learn also about other people's story, whether it's Faïka or Vanessa or Jose. I want to learn about their story as well and see where we can converge and do things together. So I think take the YouTube thing out and just find the best way to adapt and reach out to the masses in Congo and here.
Actually, I don't think that's what he meant. I think that he meant people that are here. People that are here. That we're a whole diaspora. We go online here because we have access to YouTube. Where are the people like us on YouTube so people that are here can go and watch from our experiences or just learn? Let's say you want to learn how to code, but you want something very specific. You want a Congolese to teach you, like, where are we? My answer to that is you have to be also comfortable with being behind the camera and teach. That's a whole different skill. So the reason I'm not on there is because this is just not for me yet, may change. But where I am is like other social media. So you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere else besides YouTube, where you can find some information about what I'm doing. And if you really, let's say, want to learn from my experience or what I know, or if we have time, get to sit and like learn together, we can get on a call. That's how I operate. I don't know about anyone else, but that's me specifically.
We have one more question here.
Hello, my name is Vanessa, and I currently graduate from Macpherson College with a bachelor's degree in mathematics. And my question will be for Vanessa. When I was interviewing for jobs, because I'm looking at a machine learning engineer job or data scientist position, the comment that I was receiving was I didn't do enough of coding. I didn't do enough of coding in class or outside with experience. And I, as a mathematician, I took 2 classes of coding. I took programming 1 and 1 other class. So I want to know how can I answer to that question, to the question of not me taking enough computer science classes as a machine learning engineer. Because one thing is when you code, you have to have an algorithm to implement into the program. So this is exactly what I want to be and I want to do, and I want to know what can I tell a recruiter that I don't code, I do algorithm. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question for you just to make sure that I understand. Did you get to the process of interviewing? Did you get to the coding process of interviewing, the tech interview?
Yes, I did some tech interview, but they were easy.
All right, so when it comes to interviewing, especially for coders or data scientists, unfortunately, the system of interviewing is very different from the system of working because there is a lot of software engineer. I'm also a software engineer, by the way, but there is a lot of, it's very competitive. So the questions they come up with are very data structures and algorithms related. So my answer for you would be just go online. There's a lot of resources like HackerRank, there is CodeChef, there's a lot. I can give you a list if you want, where you will have to practice. Literally, all you will do is practicing and practicing over and over, and you will understand the way certain questions are phrased. So when you get to the coding interview, even if you didn't take enough coding classes, you're still able to spot and to use the proper or the right data structure for to answer that algorithm problem. If the concern is not you solving the problem, it's more of because of your background, you didn't take enough classes. That to me, I don't know if it's a valid thing to say to someone, especially if you get to the interviewing process, but then again, I don't know how every single company works. I would say try somewhere else. Maybe they'll be okay with it because I know a lot of people that just went through boot camps and got very good jobs and they didn't have like any diploma for it. But if you hear that over and over, maybe try to do certifications. There is a lot of, like there is LinkedIn Learning where you can just do certification on coding, which gives you enough classes to just shut them down when they come with, in college you didn't take enough coding classes. That will be my answer. And if you want the list, let me know. I'll give it to you. Thank you.
Well, so we're standing between you and lunch, so we're going to close out this session. I want to thank you again for giving all the advice. Thank you, audience, for the questions and the conversation. Let's give them a round of applause. So at this time, not lunch yet. Okay, so something else will stand between you unless you won't be me. But thank you again. Thank you, audience. And if you want to connect with them, they'll be here all day. And hopefully tonight, maybe, I don't know, Paul, maybe, okay, Paul won't be here tonight, but please get their contact, get their LinkedIn, get their information, get information, right? And that's what we're here for. So thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a short 3-minute break, and we just have one more presentation from Okapi. So 3-minute break, and we have a presentation from Okapi, please.